poverty hurts. I mean, I don't like it. And I don't like that our academic system's so corrupt. So it's one of the most important messages I have for entrepreneurs is that failure should inspire you to get smarter. We learn from our mistakes. Mistakes are opportunities to get smarter, be humble, and take a look at something.
Many of you know Robert Kiyosaki as either an entrepreneur, investor, or author of the best-selling book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Some of you may be wondering what he really knows. It's one thing to say that we can learn from our mistakes, but what does he mean by our education system being corrupt? The answer may really surprise you. I've done some research on Kiyosaki and realized something when searching through his book. He retells the story of his experience with two dads. His biological father, who had a PhD, and his other dad, his friend's dad, who never finished college and was a self-made millionaire. He wanted to find out what made his friend's dad so successful, and why couldn't his dad, who was so much more educated and esteemed, have the same success. It turns out that his dad's poverty wasn't an accident, and building wealth is nothing like you'd expect. And it all starts with the first point. Number 1, cash flow quadrant.
One of the more important lessons my rich dad taught me, he said there was 4 types of people in the world of business or money, whatever he said. And this here are the 4 different types of people, and he called this the cash flow quadrant. So E stands for employee, S stands for self-employed, small business or specialist like a doctor or a lawyer. B stands for big business, 500 employees or more, and I stands for investor.
This is one of Robert Kiyosaki's most famous graphs that he talks about a lot, and for good reason. It divides the general population very simply and easily into how they make money. However, there's more to this chart than it may seem. While all of these people have the same goal, namely to make money and live well, they aren't all treated equally. The major factor that impacts how easily it is to build wealth, depending on that category, is how much taxes you pay. For Robert Kiyosaki, his dad wanted him to go to school so he could be an employee, which fits into the E category. The worst part is that tax laws are by far the worst for employees. His mom, on the other hand, wanted him to become a doctor, which is considered self-employed or a specialist. But Robert just wasn't smart enough to become a doctor. With not many options, his rich dad gave him a lead somewhere that would change his life forever, and realized that poverty isn't an accident. His rich dad told him to either start a big business or become an investor. An investor is a much easier path, and it's also the one that's taxed the least by far. One childhood game that many of you probably played is Monopoly, and Robert Kiyosaki often uses it as an example of how he learned finances. Before I continue, there's one thing to understand. You can get rich regardless of what quadrant you're in, but true wealth building favors specific quadrants.
And so it was my rich dad who said to me, he says, Robert, if you really want to be rich, learn to build businesses. It made more sense to him to work hard to build a business, something you owned and something you could pass on for generation to generation to your kids. Whereas my poor dad said work hard, but my rich dad said, why would you work hard for something you'll never own and you can get fired from right away? Again, that was the difference in values. So my rich dad suggested I learn how to be a business owner and learn how to be an investor.
It makes sense, doesn't it? When you think about it, working at a job is not only really hard, but takes up a lot of time. But the security is a little short-lived because you can lose your job at any time. Have you seen the layoffs happening in the tech industry? So, if you're going to work hard, why not do it for something that really matters to you? Robert Kiyosaki summarizes how the left and right quadrants choose to build wealth. He says that the left side, or the employees and self-employed, work for security. But the right side, the investors and the big business owners, they work for freedom. They don't want to be tied to a job forever. They'll work hard for a few years, but they can be free for the rest of their lives while still getting money. At this point, you've probably realized that all of this is new information, and nothing like this has ever been taught to you in the many years you studied in school. But why? It's what the rich teach their kids about money, the poor and middle class do not. The sad reality is that they don't teach it so the rich can stay rich. However, Kiyosaki wants to change that and help people like you. To start building wealth today, let's go on to point number 2. Number 2, debt.
Debt is a four-letter word for most people. There are many people in my position, so-called financial gurus.
Yes, Robert Kiyosaki is a financial guru, and one to finish the clip. He continued on saying that people like him live debt-free. But how is that possible? It's actually a lot more interesting than just having no debt. In fact, he utilizes debt to his advantage. For most people, they feel like getting rid of all the debt is the key to finally becoming wealthy. And for most people, that's pretty good advice. Even Robert Kiyosaki is clear in saying that debt is a liability or something that takes money out of your pocket.
Income, expense, asset, liability. So debt falls in here.
Here's where things get interesting. Do you know how you're told that a house you bought to live in is a good asset? Turns out it's not. It's actually a liability. Let me break it down. When you get a mortgage for your house, you have to pay the bank money to live in your home. In other words, it's like taking money out of your pocket. Even if your home is totally paid off, you still have to pay expenses like maintenance and property taxes as long as you own the home. It's not giving you a single cent back. He does a great job of summarizing it here.
The average person, they have a job. Money comes in here, they pay for their house, and the money goes to a bank.
There's one type of loan that you should especially stay away from, but it's the one that plagues most Americans by far. If you think it's the credit card, you're wrong. In fact, the worst type of debt you can have is student loan debt, because it's the type of debt that you can't go bankrupt on. It's a type of debt that you have to pay off no matter what, and this can really put a wrench in you getting wealthy. The saddest part is that so many of us are pushed to study regardless of the consequences financially, yet again proving that poverty is not an accident. However, there is a way to use debt to your advantage. Let's go back to the house example. This time, instead of buying a house for yourself, buy one to rent out to someone else. You do have to use debt to buy the home, but you're constantly making money from someone paying you for the home. This covers the mortgage and the expenses, and you get profit every single month. So the cash starts flowing to you instead.
When I rent a property, I've done a good job buying it and structuring it. Every month it sends me money. And the other thing about debt, there's good debt and bad debt.
Fortunately for us, Robert Kiyosaki explains the difference between the two rather simply.
It has to do with these two words here. If the cash is flowing into your income statement, into your pocket, it's an asset. It's good debt. But if it's taking money from your pocket, it's bad debt.
Now, you're ready to get rich, right? Not so fast. There's another thing to think about before moving forward, and it's this. Number 3, find a mentor.
As she says, if you're going to be successful in your life, you've got to find the best teachers.
Finding someone who can help you grow and accomplish the dreams you desire can make all the difference. I understand it can be really tough to find someone without having any contacts, but there are tons of ways that you can find people. The important part is making sure that the mentors are right.
They're the guys that actually came from the inside, just like you, from the inside the machine. And they know what's going on. And they tell the world what's going on. So I've had a habit ever since then, or a policy, if I find out there's a great teacher, and a great teacher is somebody who comes from the inside, not the outside.
As Robert says here, you find people who have experience from the inside, not people who claim to know but have never actually participated. If you know some experienced insiders around you, give them a quick contact and start learning from them. However, most of you will have to rely on a different method. A great start to this is just keep watching YouTube videos like this. You also have access to tons of books from amazing people who have gotten rich, like Robert Kiyosaki himself. He teaches you all there is to know about financial education and how to truly get wealthy, as we're showing you here in this video. Even though you have a great mentor, there's one element left that will make or break your ability to get rich.
They said, I want job security. I want a good pension. Does it have medical benefits? That's their brain. If you're really going to learn to be rich, you have to learn how to sell, how to use debt, and how not to pay taxes. That's the game.
Can you tell what it is from these two clips? If you couldn't guess it, it's yourself. You are by far your biggest obstacle and ally in all of this. Earlier in the video, I mentioned how Robert Kiyosaki's real dad was extremely educated, but was still poor. And on the other side, his rich dad was a self-made millionaire with no college at all. It was fusing these two dads together that he realized that schools taught a lot, except about one subject: the subject of money. Financial education is the key to getting wealthy, yet it's kept totally off the radar in virtually all schools. The sad part is that it's kept that way because it keeps the rich rich. The game that rich people play is entirely different from the game that poor and middle-class people play.
Today in the world, America especially, is this gap between the rich and everybody else. And I know the game of the rich. You know, my rich dad taught me, you know it because you're the banker. The game the bankers and the rich play is different than what they teach you in school.
It becomes an endless cycle of the uneducated in finance teaching more and more uneducated people in finance, while those who never finish school end up becoming extremely wealthy. Just as the pieces of the puzzle started to come together for Robert Kiyosaki, they should start coming together for you right now. There are all sorts of ways to get rich, but some ways are easier than others. As Robert Kiyosaki's rich dad taught him, taking the path of an investor is a surefire way to get rich. And taking the path of his real dad is a way to stay poor and never amount to anything. As you've now been exposed to how to get wealthy according to Robert Kiyosaki, you can start practicing all of these tips today, and as you do, let us know in the comments below how you learned about financial education so you can share it with the world today.